Our collusion and corruption segment tonight. Finally, a bombshell story about the election that the mainstream media has no interest in covering. That's because the latest revelation about former FBI Director James Comey is bad news for Democrats. According to newly revealed FBI documents, Comey drafted an exoneration statement for Hillary Clinton 2 months before he even interviewed her. And then he lied about it. Watch him. This is his congressional testimony. And remember, he's under oath here.
So what I struggled with in the spring of last year was, how do we credibly complete the investigation of Hillary Clinton's emails if we conclude there's no case there? The normal way to do it would be to have the Department of Justice announce it. And I struggled as we got closer to the end of it. A number of things had gone on, some of which I can't talk about yet, that made me worry that the department leadership could not credibly complete the investigation and decline prosecution without grievous damage to the American people's confidence in the justice system. And then the capper was, and I'm not picking on the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, who I like very much, but her meeting with President Clinton on that airplane was the capper for me. And I then said, you know what, the department cannot by itself credibly end this. The best chance we have as a justice system is if I do something I never imagined before, step away from them and tell the American people, look, here's what the FBI did, here's what we found, here's what we think.
With me now from the Center for Security Policy, former CIA analyst Fred Fleitz. Fred, good to see you.
Hey, Liz, good to be here.
Fred, this is a huge story. This is a shocking revelation. This is something that we had surmised beforehand, but the FBI themselves actually confirmed it. They have documents that they released that prove that James Comey started drafting this exoneration letter for Hillary Clinton. Mind you, this is not just notes on the investigation. He drafted the exoneration saying that he would not recommend indictment or prosecution, that she was not guilty of these things in his opinion. There was no case to be made against her 2 months before he even interviewed her.
I know, it's appalling. He refused to investigate the Clinton Foundation, which is another scandal that's growing worse. He slapped Hillary Clinton on the wrist over violating security regulations and the law and the private server in her home. Now we find out he actually wrote a letter exonerating her before he had investigated her or other witnesses. It comes down to this. It seems that there is a separate system of justice, a separate standard of justice if your name is Clinton. Now, we saw this during Bill Clinton's days. Any other Republican would have been thrown out of office. It was certainly true of his wife.
Right, and it's shocking that we've gotten to a point in our nation that there are double standards based off of your wealth or your lack of wealth and the political initial after your name versus another political initial behind your name. That should give every American, regardless of your political stripe, pause to stop and think, is that the country? Is that how our justice system we want to live? Because that's a very dangerous situation. Going back to Comey for a second, and maybe I'm missing something here, Fred, and you can certainly point that up if I am, but how would James Comey, the director of the FBI, who's supposed to be dedicated to using facts to draw a conclusion, how would he be able to comment on Hillary Clinton's intention, the intention behind her actions, setting up this private email server, sending and receiving classified information, if he actually hadn't talked to the woman herself?
That's right. Look, he was part of the swamp. He's part of the establishment. The establishment did not want to go after Democrats, did not want to go after the Clintons. He obviously went out of his way not to say anything too damning that would hurt her presidential candidacy because he wanted her to win. I mean, it was politicized from top to bottom. And I just think, this isn't even the worst allegation we've seen over the last year, even though it's very damning.
Right. If it's not the worst, that shows the sorry state of things. All right. So this is a tweet from President Trump talking about it being fixed, this investigation being rigged from the beginning here. My question to you, Fred, is you heard James Comey, that was in May 2017, in that video at the beginning of the segment, talking about what prompted him, testifying under oath, I should say, about what prompted him to go public with this letter stating the exoneration of Hillary Clinton. Did he lie under oath if in fact he had started drafting that months earlier?
So many things Comey has said just don't add up. I remember the speech he gave in the summer of 2016. It looked like he was going to recommend an indictment. He listed all these awful things Hillary Clinton had done concerning mishandling classified information, the private email server, emails being destroyed, and then he said he was going to prosecute. It just didn't add up. No matter what the evidence came to, he was not going to prosecute, and he was going to give her a pass. I think we know that now.
No, it would be like a prosecutor trying to making a public statement about a robbery of a convenience store and saying, listen, the suspect broke the glass, levied a firearm at the owner, assaulted the police officer who responded, stole a bunch of cigarettes and left, but, you know, no reasonable prosecutor would find any reason because the intention wasn't there. That's what Comey's July 5th exoneration statement sounded like to me. He laid out a perfect case for prosecution, and at the end, a very strange reversal saying even with all this evidence, we're not going to prosecute her. So, Fred, and I guess this leaves one more question, is what kind of investigation should we have into this matter now? And I use the word matter because that's something that Loretta Lynch called Hillary's email investigation. She told James Comey to call the investigation not an investigation, but a matter. Should we be looking into this further? Because it seems very dangerous from the perspective of an everyday American citizen to think that our Justice Department is this corrupt.
You know, there's supposed to be the same standard of justice for everyone. I think this should be investigated. And I think we have to have a thorough investigation of the Clinton Foundation, which foreign companies and foreign countries were using to buy influence with a sitting U.S. senator, a sitting Secretary of State, and a potential presidential candidate. It's just outrageous that this has not been thoroughly investigated. I think people should go to jail over these payments.
Certainly. I mean, James Comey, it's remarkable how he contradicts himself. This revelation is one of the largest we've seen yet. Fred, thanks for coming on the show and breaking it down. I appreciate it.